So welcome again to Word Crumbs. Today we are starting the week of Monday of the 24th week in Ordinary Time. So it's the 13th of September for those who do not remember already what day it is. And we are going to look at Psalm 28, verse 6 to 9. Psalm 28, verse 6 to 9, which is the psalm of this day. And once again, it is the invitation of this act of faith, a daily act of faith as Christians or as Catholics by following the liturgy of the church, the daily mass readings. Now, the response for today is, "Blessed be the Lord, for he has heard my prayer. Blessed be the Lord, for he has heard my prayer." And this is an act of faith in a God who listens, a God who cares about my petitions, and it matters to him that I speak out to him, that I express myself to him, and that he answers my prayers. Now, let us look at the psalm itself and to see how this psalm develops itself, or the psalmist develops this prayer in order to affirm this truth of our faith, that God hears our prayers and he answers them. So let us read it together. "Hear the sound of my pleading when I cry to you, lifting up my hands toward your holy shrine. The Lord is my strength and my shield. In him my heart trusts, and I find help. Then my heart exalts, and with my song I give him thanks." And it continues. "The Lord is the strength of his people, the saving refuge of his anointed. Save your people and bless your inheritance. Feed them and carry them forever." So let us go back again to this, what this psalm is trying to say. So just very briefly, this psalm is talking about a man, a psalmist who's crying out to God and praying to him, lifting his hands as a sign of abandon and reaching out to where God is, which is his holy shrine. So the Lord, and he makes an act of faith. "The Lord is my strength and my shield. In him my heart trusts." And I think this is the verse that is key for us today in understanding this act of faith in a God who answers, who hears our prayers and answers them. In him my heart trusts. God hears me, and whatever his answer is, I trust him. So this is the key. I think many of us have heard this before, that God answers all our prayers, all of them. But he has three different answers. The first is yes. When we petition and we ask for something, he either says yes, or he says no, or he says not yet. So it's yes, but not now. And I think sometimes it might be difficult to understand how can God love us if he says no. So yes is an easy answer to accept. But what about no and not yet? And here is where it comes a childlike trust in a God who is our Father. So like any parent, if your child asks you for something, many times out of love, we would say yes, because there's no trouble, we can afford it, we think it's good for them, and so we say yes to our child, whether it's our son or our daughter or whoever it is. But sometimes as a parent, we need to say no. Why? Because we know that what this child is asking for is not good for him or for her. So for example, as adults, sometimes we want absolute freedom. We want everything in life that we can get. But we know that absolute freedom is not good for anyone. to be totally free to do whatever you want, maybe even harmful for someone. So sometimes, as parents, we also know that we need to give freedom to our children gradually. So we say no, or the answer would be not yet. Like, Mom, Dad, can I have a car to drive? And the child is 8 or 9 years old. Would you say yes? Of course not. But maybe you won't say no either. But you might say, not yet. I would give it to you if I can afford it and if you need it, but not yet. You're not prepared to have it. So this is where sometimes it's difficult for us, but it's understandable when God says also either no, because they know this absolutely not good, but sometimes with good things that we ask for, He says, not yet. And this is where perhaps we can understand if God was a parent, that He would say, not yet, because you're not ready to receive this gift. And I think here is where it comes back to this psalm, this act of faith. The Lord is my strength and my shield. He supports me. He has been supporting me my whole life, in fact, through many ways. In Him, my heart trusts. I trust Him. I trust that He knows what is good for me. I trust that He knows what is good for my family. I trust that He knows what is good for my society, even. And maybe what I'm asking for, He's saying, you need to mature first. I'm not giving it to you because I would like you to grow up in faith first, to grow up in a certain sense of responsibility, uh, a mature responsibility before I answer your prayer. And meanwhile, trust me. Meanwhile, before I answer your prayer, trust me. Because maybe, like parents, we would see God is looking at us and He says, maybe there's something we need to change first. Maybe a certain disposition or attitude that has to be modified before He gives us that good thing that we are asking for. So, back to the response of today. Blessed be the Lord, for He has heard my prayer. So it's an act of faith to know that every time we pray, God listens, God hears, and He's more attentive than any good listener. He's more attentive, He hears, but He answers our prayers in His own way, and we are invited to trust Him, to accept His answer for now, but never to keep on praying and asking. Because as we continue asking, and even though we don't get what we ask for yet, our constant prayer will purify our hearts, our motivations, and make us ready to receive the gift when the time comes that God knows He wants to answer that prayer with a yes. Now, for those who are interested, I'm going to extend this meditation a little bit more to talk about asking, but in the context of for our society, for our world, and especially for the Filipino context where the elections will be coming soon. And what does God or the scriptures tell us in the Hebrew tradition are three main elements we need to ask God for a people. So we know that now we're not only asking for our own personal benefits during this time, and especially with all that is happening, we want to ask for the whole world and for the whole people what is best. And this second part of this psalm, if I may say so, tells us three things we need. It says here, the Lord is the strength of His people, the saving refuge of His anointed. So there are three things here: the Lord, His people, and His chosen leaders, the anointed. Whenever we pray for a society, which is actually, if you want to read the readings of today, is talking about praying for our leaders, our social political leaders. But in any society that works, we need these three elements in the Hebrew mentality or the scriptural culture. God, we need God. Second, we need His people. The people have to be an active part. We cannot just leave it to our leaders and then blame our leaders for things that are happening. The people need to play their part. And of course, the third is the chosen person who realizes he's anointed by God. So the people don't belong to him or to her. The people belong to God, and he has been chosen in order to guide his people with peace, with justice, in order that his people, God's people, can do their part in contributing to society. Just think about it. If we leave everything to the leaders, then what's the point of having a people? So these three elements, whenever we choose leaders, we have to be aware. We choose suitable leaders. We're not choosing a God. We can't just rely totally on this person. They're suitable. They bring justice. They bring peace. They are people who respect the religiosity of the people. It's a person, the leader is a person who respects the religiosity of the people, even though he or she may not share the same beliefs. So it's kind of interesting if you want to ponder this psalm today and look at the gospel about how to choose a leader. And the gospel speaks of a political figure today, which is the centurion. The centurion is a political figure. And the people asked Jesus to hear his petition because of two things that they see in him as a good leader. First, he loves the people. He really has a heart for the people and genuine care. So a leader who's motivated not by other things, but because he shows or she shows that they care for the people in a genuine way. So first is this care for this love for the people. And second, the Jews saw them as a good leader because he built the synagogue. So this centurion doesn't share the same beliefs as the Jews, but he respected their own beliefs. He respected their religiosity. So somehow he has a care for a higher authority, a higher power, if you like. And it doesn't matter to him or to her whether it is his or her own way of believing in that higher power. But the fact that he respects the religiosity and the beliefs of the local people, of the people themselves, it gives a certain dignity that the people can also worship and to give reverence to that higher power of their own religion, which we call God. So it's so beautiful. The gospel itself gives us some criteria of how to choose good or suitable leaders who are not God, but who love the people and who respect the place of their God in that society. Two very essential elements. And based on these three elements that we work together, God, people, and anointed, the people who does their part, not each one, not just delegating all the responsibilities on the anointed in that sense. Then here is where it says, save your people. This is the petition that we are making for our countries. You know, I think it's also good for Catholics and Christians to realize that we need a certain level of patriotism because God comes first. But our faith, our religiosity, our way of living as Christians cannot be done without a peaceful and just society, without belonging to a people, to a country, to a nation or a certain culture. So when we pray for the church and when we pray for ourselves, let us also pray for our nations, our countries, our people, and our leaders. And that's why this prayer, save your people and bless your inheritance. Bless this culture that you yourself have created in this world. You know, the culture also is developed as a way for God to express his love amongst peoples. So bless these people, feed them, be their shepherd, nourish them with what they need, love, justice, and faith as well, and carry them forever. Because the one who needs to carry any country, any people, is not the leader. It's not the leader. It's impossible to depend on one man or one woman or just a group of people to carry a nation, it needs God. That is why we need all these three. Carry them, asking God, praying to God for our people to whom we belong, wherever we are from, so that we can have a society that works, and we can work together as different societies to overcome this challenge of the pandemic during our times.